All right, guys, let's see what the chat's saying, man. I'm going to try to roll back here. It's hard to keep up when we're flying solo. Let's see if we can find. Has anybody got anything they had to say about it? Jen Wright says, feel sorry for Mannion. Bad situation to step into. No one wanted that job. It's really strange, right? Because when you look at that, Jen, it's like Nick Sirianni, 1 second he wants to call a plays, the next second he does. It seems like every time the heat gets ratcheted up on Nick Sirianni, he kind of steers the I don't want to say the blame, but he steers the responsibility in the direction of one of his assistants. Okay, we'll just move on from him and get somebody else, right? That's kind of how that feels like it happens. So I could see what you're saying there with Sean Mannion, that it could be a situation where he steps into that and A.J. Brown's reading books on the sideline. Jalen Hurts, 1 second he's MVP caliber, the next second he's not, right? You got Nick Sirianni, who's an overly emotional quarterback. Now, listen, he's got pelts on the wall. He's a championship coach. He's won Lombardi, right? Like he's done a good job, but he's, arguing with the fans back and forth during games and stuff like that. You got Big Dom, the security guy on the sideline. I don't know what the hell he thinks he's doing. I've watched football my entire life, and I've never seen a security officer following the head coach around and just always looking to get in the limelight. They keep referring to him as Big Dom. Like, I don't look at that guy and go, ooh, wouldn't want to mess with him. I look at that guy and go, I'm just going to stick and move. Like, what the hell is he going to do? So anyway, I don't understand why he's got to be in the limelight. It's just a weird vibe over there. But again, Philly's a wild town. So as you're looking to build your young coaching career, Jen, these are the top of things you got to do, right? These are the top of things that you got to do. You've got to sometimes, okay, this is going to be a promotion. Let me go over and just try to make a name for myself real quick. And obviously it's going to come with a pay increase and all that good stuff in between. So looks like we're having a few connection issues. You guys let me know in the chat if we have any connection issues. Hopefully y'all can hear me. It keeps flickering on my side, which the internet's been a little bit spotty down here with all the bad weather we've had recently. So yeah, let's see here. Good morning to you, Daryl. Good to see you in here, buddy. Appreciate you swinging through. Just want to hit a couple more of these. Jen Wright says, thanks Saivion puts on some weight and is the returner again. I hope he is, Jen. I thought he'd done an excellent job returning kicks. I think we looked it up at one point, and he was like 18th in the league in average kick return yards, per return. And you guys know I like to do things on a per snap basis as opposed to just saying, oh, they're getting this many this game, because obviously if you get more opportunities, the total yardage is going to be more. I like to look at it on a per snap, per attempt, efficiency basis. And I thought he did really well. I hope he stays healthy, Jim. I know for someone who played, less than 100 snaps, if I remember correctly, he showed me some stuff. Now, I know he had the fumble there. That was a crucial fumble. I can't remember what game it was against on the jet sweep, but he also had the touchdown the week before. Nobody complained about the jet sweep the week before when we scored a touchdown, right? Or maybe it was the RPO, the screen pass, right? Nobody complains when it works. When it don't work, it's a problem. What's Matt LaFleur doing? He needs to get his head out of his butt. It's amazing how success changes how people feel about the same exact play call. But I thought that Saivion showed a lot of promising things, and I'm with you 100%. I want to see him returning kicks too. I really do. Coach Lance says people like Saivion Williams. I agree. I don't know any fans that came away going, other than he got hurt, right? And he was hurt coming into the draft process a little bit. So there was a little bit of history there, but obviously they had a second round grade on him. Goody said that. Had a second round grade on him. They were able to get him in the third round. That's great, right? So, yeah, I'm with you, Coach. I think most people liked him for sure. Let's see what else we got in here. Anything else? Yeah, that's a great point. Tim in the chat says Saivion played quarterback in high school. He did. He was recruited to play quarterback in college, if I remember correctly. Was it he and Matthew Golden that crossed paths? I want to say he hosted somebody, or they hosted. I think he hosted. I can't remember if it was Matthew Golden or not, but he hosted somebody that was on the Packers roster. He hosted them on their recruiting visit when they were looking to come to. I can't remember if it was TCU or the other school he was at. There were some ties there, but yeah, he had a quarterback background. And you love that, man. You get in a situation where you want to run a little wildcat and throw a little chicanery or a double reverse pass, something like that, which we've seen time and time again between Dan Campbell's offenses. And I want to say that Ben Johnson ran it several times this year as well. You could throw that wrinkle in, and, it kind of turns into an RPR. He can throw it or he can run it. He's a hard runner, a physical runner. His numbers coming out of college, his contested catch rate was through the roof. It's weird because he had kind of a high drop rate, right? Which essentially means, all right, the ball hits you in the hands, you should catch it, or it's in the catch radius, you should catch it, and you dropped it. But then when he had to go up over somebody for a 50-50 ball, I want to say he led the nation or was top 5 in the nation in contested catch rate. So that was all over the tape. And then lo and behold, the Giants game, when you needed a big play, he was out there on 1 foot playing hurt. He made a contested catch on a huge play, a huge throw there from Jordan Love. So you've seen the college tape translate over to the pros. I think Saivion's going to be great, especially, see, we talked about Noah Pauley and what he could do with Matthew Golden and Christian Watson and Jaden Reed. We didn't even talk about what he could do with Saivion, right? Because really, when you think about it, Saivion's a bigger receiver. What is he, like 6'2" or 6'3"? So he's cut a little more from the cloth of Christian Watson than obviously Jaden Reed, Matthew Golden. So who knows, man? Maybe we look up halfway through the season next year and Noah Pauley's got Savion Williams playing great, and he's our number 2 receiver. That could be the case. And that's the difference between me and other fans, to be honest with you. And maybe you guys disagree, and that's okay. But I don't care where they're drafted. You know, I remember fans thinking Donald Driver got too many targets. And I'm like, who cares? It's working. Like, I don't care that he was a 7th round pick. Now, obviously, you get 10 years down the road or however long Donald Driver played, he's a fan favorite. But at the time, I remember people complaining, like, we're taking snaps away from this guy. We're taking once you make the roster and you get into camp, I just really wish, I think coaches try to do it, but GMs stay involved, obviously. Forget the draft pick. Forget the salary. Forget how much money they're making. If they're not the better player, get them off the field. That's just the way I see it. So I know there's a portion of the fan base that would be upset if Saivion got more targets than Matthew Golden, because what we've seen with Matthew Golden, and don't get me wrong, I hope Matthew Golden, I think Matthew Golden is going to be a better receiver than Saivion. However, if Savion's the dude that needs to become the next Tay Adams for this offense, or the next, trying to think, back in the day, Greg Jennings, Jordy Nelson, help, even a James, whatever it is, like whoever it is on this receiving core that needs to be that, great. I could care less. I could care less about the draft pick, right? So, and the fact that, like Tim says, Saivion played quarterback in high school, I think it's a testament to the FBI. Obviously, the football IQ there is absolutely huge. So, let's see here. Yeah, Coach Lynn said 6'3", 222. Jen Wright says 6'4", she thought. And it depends on where you go get the information. I think Coach had it right. I want to say it was 6'3" was the official combine measurements. That's what you want to look at, is look at the RAS card, and that'll tell you what they actually measured at the combine. Because, again, you get some of these guys, Diego Pavia, he was listed as 5'10" and 5'11" throughout his whole college career. He gets to the Senior Bowl, and he's 5'9". It's like, okay, I'll give you an inch difference there. Like, okay, it's easy to be off, an inch on height, but what are we talking about here? What are we doing? So yeah, very, very, very interesting there. So again, 6'3", 6'4", something like that, right? Chad Inc. says Saivion is a big dude. He looks big next to the big guys. He really does. Next to the offensive lineman, you don't go, wow, he's tiny next to them. You go, damn, is that a tight end? That's really what he looks like. Obviously, he's not as thick as our tight ends, but definitely a bigger dude, no doubt about it, man. No doubt about it. Let's see here. Yeah, Jen Wright Driver was a beast. Such a stand-up dude, man. You talk about coming from nothing. And still to this day, a great guy, right? Just always smiling, always upbeat, always taking care of people. Yeah, just a great dude for sure. Coach Land says he's got that height, weight combo Green Bay looks for. Yes, bigger body, right? Bigger body dude for sure. That's what was it was off a little bit with Matthew Golden, was he was a smaller guy, although I think he did still meet the threshold or right on the cusp of it. So it wasn't like a huge difference, but yeah, they would much rather have a bigger receiver for sure, man, for sure. Let's see here. Thomas Ott in the chat says, then add a healthy Kraft who was on his way to a breakout season. Man, it's exciting to think about. When I think about the tight end room, I think in a multitude of ways. Like, I'm excited about Tucker Kraft, and I think if there's a player that can return from an ACL like Christian Watson, i.e. stronger or better than he was before, and Christian was better than he was before. That was wild to me, that he played better. We expected his hands to get better, right? We knew he was going to know the offense in and out because he probably extra study in there because he couldn't, maybe run or work condition as much as he wanted to with the ACL. You got to kind of limit yourself in the rehab. But man, he didn't miss a step, didn't lose a step, still got the same speed. To me, he looked like he bulked up a little bit. His hands got better. His route running got better. Everything got better. So if Tucker Kraft comes back better, that's awesome. But we need that second tight end. And I don't hate Musgrave. I think there's a portion of the fan base that thinks Musgrave is a really bad football player. I don't think he's a really bad football player. Now, he hasn't lived up to that second-round draft pick. There's no doubt about that, right? Obviously, we take him in the second. You take Tucker in the third, if my memory serves me correctly. Tucker ends up being the far better player. But Tucker maybe doesn't get those. This is a perfect example. If Luke Musgrave doesn't get hurt, what was it, their rookie year, I believe? Rookie or their second year, whenever it was. If he doesn't get hurt and Tucker Kraft gets those extra snaps, right? So if Tucker doesn't get those extra snaps, do we even see the potential that Tucker Kraft has? That's what I'm talking about putting the best players on the field. We were going out there, and because Luke Musgrave was a second-round pick, well, he's the starter. He's the starter. He's the starter, you know? And again, I don't think that's the coaching staff necessarily just doing that. I think there's some, again, keep in mind, all these decisions, they're meeting behind the scenes, right? Ed Policy, Brian Gutekunst, Russ Ball, and Matt LaFleur, they're all meeting. So it's a collaboration. No one person's over the other. We know the structure stayed the same. So I think you get a little bit of that. Well, he needs to see the field. He needs to see the field. Goody said it as a presser the other day. Don't take my word for it. Take his word for it. You know, he's like, well, you got to get the young guys on the field. When Wildy pressed him on, like, don't you think you need to add some veterans? Like, why is it that you don't want to sign anyone who's over 30 years old? And he said, well, you know, it's taking snaps away from the young guys. You don't see what you got in the young. I get that. And they're called progress stoppers. And I understand the whole Bill Parcells way of thinking. But at the same time, it's like, when I hear that, what I hear is, I don't care that this player is better now. I want to unlock the potential of this player as soon as possible. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but there's pros and cons to every decision you make. Like, if your decision is going to be, this player is a B, and I'm going to start this C over him because I think he has a potential, right? And this guy, we already know what we have. Well, if you do that, the pro is you may unlock that A potential. The con is, in big-time situations with a young player that's inexperienced, probably going to have things happen like what happened against Chicago in the playoffs. That's just kind of how I see that. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but how about we add youth like we always do? You give them an opportunity to win the job, and whoever the hell wins the job, they're the best option. They go play. Chances are that player is going to get hurt, and the young guy's going to get a shot anyway, right? But when you force the young guy into the limelight, when you got someone who's better right now, and then one or two things go wrong, right? Matthew Golden disabled his social media last year because it got so loud. And again, the loudness wasn't necessarily Golden's a bad football player. It was the Packers aren't using him right. They're underutilizing. They're blah, 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 blah. And I'm going, but the tape is showing he's running the wrong routes at times. The tape is showing that he's not running the route at the right depth. The tape is showing on a choice route, he chose the wrong angle and ran a defender right into Christian Watson. That's what the tape is showing, okay? And then, okay, that's just my interpretation of the tape. I could be wrong. Then Jordan Love comes out in the back half of the season. He was asked in a presser, what changed with Matthew Golden? He seems to, well, yeah, I think he has a better understanding of the offense, and I think he's running much better routes. Everything that Love said without saying he was doing those wrong before, he's saying he's doing it much better now. Put two and two together. That's what happened with Matthew Golden. So again, you press him out there and you don't get the production you're looking for. Now what happens? He gets his own head, gets it in his own head. And then the social media presence gets all loud. He has to turn off social media for a bit, right? So all that stuff, again, it's like a quarterback. When you go to a starting quarterback, you got to know he's the best option for you. And you don't turn back from that, right? Like what happened with J.J. McCarthy? I don't think J.J. McCarthy looks like he's going to be a great quarterback. But I'll tell you this. If he had got to sit a full season, okay, and again, people say, well, he did sit a full season as rookie. He was hurt. He didn't even get to participate in training camp hardly, right? So he gets this whole full season where he's rehabbing and this and that. And then who was the guy he was sitting behind? He was sitting behind Sam Darnold. Everybody's talking like Sam Darnold is like the second coming of Joe Montana right now. And when you look at his stats in the Super Bowls, guys, he got the job done. Don't get me wrong, right? And I think it's hilarious that Minnesota let him go. They should have kept him for one more year at least and let J.J. McCarthy learn behind him. But his Super Bowl statistics, what was he in the 50s? Like in terms of the completion percentage? You know, he's not the reason they won the Super Bowl. He's not. but he didn't hurt their chances either. So it's a perfect example of if Minnesota had kept Sam Darnold, they would have been way better off. And maybe that would have helped J.J. McCarthy's career early on, so he could kind of get a little more time of learning. Everybody likes to rake the Packers over the coals for sitting Jordan Love and sitting Aaron Rodgers for so long. Boy, did it work out, right? Because they turned into great quarterbacks because they're not gun shy. They're not going out there and getting their ass kicked and kind of playing against the grain, so to speak. So let's see. What else we got in here in the chat? I'm going to try to keep you guys included as much as I can, especially when the news is kind of slow, right? Let's see. Jen Wright says passing game's going to cook this year. Next year, I agree. To me, it kind of feels like there's emphasis going in there, Jim, with the hiring of Noah Pauley. They kept Coach Butkus, right? It looks like as of right now, Adam Stenovich is staying. That may change. I don't know. But it looks like they didn't do anything to the run game, at least as of February the 11th, as we're talking right now. But they did go get Noah Pauley. They had to replace him, but I feel like they upgraded there. Jordan Love, I think, is going to take another huge step. Who's going to be the quarterback coach? Is it going to be Luke Getsy? We'll find out, right? That's going to play a big role as well. So I said send up the bat signal to Coach Clements again, but I was kind of joking, but kind of not, to be honest with you. So, yeah. All right, let's see here. Anything else? Daryl in the chat said if Musgrave stayed healthy, he would have been a tight end one other than Kraft. Kraft started quietly. It's true, Daryl, but, the problem with it is it doesn't mean that Musgrave would be at the level Kraft is, right? And that's kind of what I was saying is like the thought of Kraft getting limited snaps because Musgrave never got hurt scares me. And I think that's there's a problem with that when it comes to, trying to play players where you drafted them as opposed to, the opposite. So Jen Rice says, can't wait for the offseason when Reed, Watson, Wicks, Golden can work out together. Yeah, the videos are awesome on IG for sure when they start throwing those out. Wicks is an interesting one, man. I'm so up and down on Wicks. I feel like he played better last year than he did the year before, obviously. But then he ended up having that bad drop there down the stretch, right? Which Reed had one too. None of the throws were perfect, but if it hits you in the hands, you should catch it. I think we would all agree. But yeah, I'm interested to see what Wicks does because man, 1 second I look at him and go, this dude could be a top 10 receiver in the league just based off of the mechanics, the tools, right? How he plays the game. And then you see the performance sometimes you go, man, I don't know if he's going to be on the roster next year. It's just, there's just a big, and that inconsistency is probably why he fell as far as he did in the draft, right? All that stuff comes into play too. So let's see here. Yeah, J. Cole, but somehow ESPN will tell you Darnold is better than Love. It's just, you could just tell people don't do the research, man. It's just a lazy way to cover the game. I heard an argument the other day between Dan Orlovsky and Mina Kimes, and I've got all the respect in the world for Mina. I think Mina knows more football than most football guys, right? Most football fans that are guys. But that was just such an awkward conversation because Dan was preventing facts, and it's like she was not going to hear it. And of course, that's how those shows are. That's how those shows are geared. And I'm not saying Dan's perfect. Dan's made plenty of bad takes too, right? He's on ESPN. I think it's a qualification for the job, to be honest with you. But it's obviously it's not as exciting to talk about the things that I talk about, where it's like, okay, here's very matter of fact. Here's what the numbers show. Here's what the tape shows. What do you guys think? Let's bounce it off each other. ESPN is, all right, the production meetings. Let's sit down. All right, guys, here's the plan. Here's the topic. I want you to say this. I want you to say this. I want you to say this. Get very animated. Ready? Break. That's how they run their show. So you're not really learning anything, but I guess it can be entertaining if you like that kind of drama. That's like some people were entertained over this Super Bowl halftime talk. They love the division. They love fighting over it. And I'm like, I just don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't. But that is today's society, man. All right, let's see what else we got here. Hit a couple more. Jen Wright says, Vrabel dapping up, I think is what she meant. Dapping up Love made me smile, gaining respect through the league. Yeah, it was cool. He spotted him and made an effort to go over to him. I like Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel's a good coach. He's a good leader of men, If you could take Vrabel's leadership style, and it helps when you played at a very high level and you've got Super Bowl rings as a player, right? Which Vrabel has, I think, multiple rings, if I remember correctly. It helps with the players. But if you could take Vrabel's, the way he interacts with the players and his kind of coaching style with Matt LaFleur's football mind and make that one coach, my God, you probably got a top 5 coach in NFL history, you know? So every coach has got pros and cons. They got strengths and weaknesses. And yeah, Mike Vrabel's a good man, I think. I think he's just that edginess to him, right? He's walking around with a dip in, you know? They said it ain't nothing for people to see him smoke a cigarette. And it's like players are like, this dude's just himself. And how he is with the media too, you know, Belichick was just rude to the media. And that's another reason why he's not going to the Hall of Fame, the first ballot. And I think it's just absolutely weird. It's just strange. It's so strange. It's kind of like when Aaron Rodgers had to speak out about the MVP because, you know, people already said, I'm not voting for him because his stance on vaccination. It's like, what does that got to do with football? Just like, what does the halftime show got to do with football? It has nothing to do with it, right? But with Vrabel, you could tell he doesn't enjoy talking to the media, but he's not rude. He's very stern. You could literally hear it in the reporters' voices. They're like, I ain't saying anything to piss this guy off. I ain't gonna do it. So he handled the media really good as a player too. I remember watching his pressers back in the day and everything. So let's see here. Coach Lynn says Watson has to catch that post in the red zone. Completely agree, Coach. Completely agree. You know, you can say that, Coach, because you played the game. I want to say you were either wide receiver or DB. I can't remember either way. Doesn't matter. Still applies. You can say that because you've had to go over the middle. You've had to go up and try to catch a football as a receiver or as a DB with traffic all around. Me, never having played at a high level, it's hard for me to go, he's got to catch that ball, you know, because I'm going, boy, if he goes up and completely sells out and catches that, you know, because I want to say I don't want to say he short-armed it, but he was like he was expecting the ball in a little bit different spot, but it was definitely on Watson more than Love. Love put it in a bucket, no doubt. But it's like, man, I try to refrain from those type of things, saying those type of things, because I don't know how I could make that catch in that kind of traffic. You know what I'm saying? Like, and you got to as an athlete. I'm not making excuses for him, but I just don't feel comfortable being like, let me tell you what I'd have done. I'd have went in there and taken 3 shots to the ribs and hauled that ball in and lowered my head and went in the end zone, you know? Because, again, I've never been in that situation. So look at that a little bit different, but I respect your opinion on it because, like I said, you've lived it, man. You've lived it. Yeah, wide receiver. That's what I was thinking. So there you go. Yeah. All right, let's see here. What else do we got? People together. I want to make sure. I got to be careful. Anytime I mention the Super Bowl, I can't just throw comments up because it might get out of control. So, or the halftime show, rather, not necessarily the Super Bowl. All right, cool. I think we're good. Guys. Like I said, I just want to get you all involved a little bit while the news cycle was a little bit slow. So that's your breaking news. We got that to you all. We'll edit that out.